Hey guys, so today I'm going to talk about controller settings. So what you want to do is go to options, and under controller you want to go to button layout preset and select tactical. What this does is it switches your melee and your crouch button. This allows you to do what is called as a drop shot. If you don't know what a drop shot is, I'll show you. It's when you aim and go prone and shoot all at the same time, like so. This may have happened to you many times. You may have been killed a lot of times by enemy players, and you might be wondering like how people do that. And this is how. Like, they're using the tactical preset, and obviously it's a lot harder to hit a target that's prone right in front of you than someone who's just standing upright, you know. So this gives you a big advantage, and it doesn't take that much practice. It's pretty easy to do. You just stop moving, aim, shoot. You are not able to do this on the default preset because if you tried, you would have to take your right thumb off the joystick to prone, and while you're proning and holding that crouch button, you're not aiming. So it would look like this. You wouldn't be able to aim if you were running the default. But if you're running tactical, since it's the same button, the right joystick, you can crouch and aim, go prone and aim all at the same time and shoot. So next, stick layout preset. I'll leave that at default. That's optional. I play inverted, but that's optional. Dead zone is for players that have a lot of sway, like in their character or aiming. So for example, it might look like this, or they might move and they're not even touching the controller. If this is happening to you, then what you do is you just increase the dead zone until that movement stops. But for most people who have a controller that works just fine, you should just leave at 0.05. That does not mean you should drop it all the way down to 0, because even if you take care of your controller, you are going to wear out the joysticks eventually, and it's better to just leave it at default, which is 0.05, and not worry about it so much. Sensitivity, I run 7.7, that's what I like, but what you want to do is run the highest possible sensitivity that you can realistically manage. So 7.7, that's just what I like. It's what works for me. It's still pretty snappy. It's fast. I can turn around pretty quickly. But if you're able to run, let's say 13.13, very high, you know, all this does is benefit you if you're able to manage this sensitivity. It's pretty high, but it's just preference. Next is low zoom sensitivity. Most people run this at just under 1. For the longest time I ran at 0.80, but that was a little too slow for close encounters. So now I run 0.85, which is what I like. So this is good for example, if there's like an enemy very far away. If you have a slower low zoom sensitivity, it's just easier to track that enemy, as opposed to if it was very high, let's say it's 1.3, then the movement is like, it's too fast. It's a lot harder, especially if they're very far away. So it's just easier to stay on target if it's just a little lower. I recommend 0.85, that's what I like, but also preference. High zoom sensitivity, preference, it's up to you. I keep it at default, which is 1. Never had a reason to change it. And response curve types, this can get pretty complicated, especially since the description that they give you is pretty shit. It's hard to like explain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a brief explanation of each curve type in the description of this video. But me personally, I run dynamic because it's more of a snappy response curve type. That's just what I like. But you have to try them out for yourself and see what works best for you. Controller vibration off. All it does is drain your battery and messes up your aiming. There's no reason to turn it on. Keep that off. Aim assist. Alright, so if you're using a controller, you want to be running some type of aim assist. So you do not want to disable it, which leaves you with 3 options. Standard, precision, and focusing. Now focusing, as it says right here, it's for beginners. Like if you've never played an FPS, this is your first time, it's for that type of player. I would suggest, even if you are a beginner and you've never played a first-person shooter, do not use focusing, because this is just going to be a giant crutch. Not only that, I think it's just bad, because if your aim assist is so strong, what could happen is, let's say there's two enemies right here. They're like right next to each other. You might try and kill the enemy to the right, but this aim assist is so strong, for whatever fucking reason, it pulls you to the left, and it just throws you off and messes you up. Like, aim assist kind of takes control of your character. Like, if you're using the focusing aim assist, it's just too strong. So even if you're a newbie, I would stay away from it. Standard is where it's at for most players. Standard is just, it's like a sweet spot. Like, it's not too intrusive. I use precision because I'm confident in my aiming. I don't really rely on that much of an aim assist. For precision, like, if you're already on the target, it might pull you towards the target a little bit more, like just slightly, which is what I prefer, because I feel like I'm in more control of my character. But the aim assist is still there, like you still have a little bit of help. So essentially, standard is what most people want, or if you're very confident in your aiming, I would choose precision. It's the least intrusive one. I like precision. Weapon mount activation, do not disable it. You want this at certain points in the game, but I would not use double tap ADS, that's just funky. I would not run ADS, and I'll show you why. You don't want to come around here and accidentally mount and fuck yourself, because now you're stuck here for, you know, a second if you're trying to unmount yourself. So I would run the default, which is ADS melee. So, because this way you can mount when you actually want to mount. Like, it's never going to be by accident, you know. As for weapon mount, movement, exit, I would highly suggest you enable this. I'll show you why. So let's say you're mounted and you're tracking an enemy and he's about to, like, get out of your line of sight or whatever. So you're tracking your enemy, and instead of taking your right thumb and pressing the melee button, it's easier to just move while keeping your sights on the enemy. So enemy is moving, you're keeping your sights on him, and you unmount by just moving, and you can keep your sights on the enemy, as opposed to thumb off the aiming joystick and pressing melee and then get back on target. It's just easier if you enable it and just move. It just feels a lot more fluid too. It feels like more natural. So enable that. Aim down side behavior, hold. Toggle is more of like a PC thing, I'd imagine. So controller, set that to hold. Equipment behavior, hold. So if you want like cook grenades. Alright, use reload behavior. So if you're playing Warzone, 100% you want to use contextual tap. This will allow you to pick up weapons and items and get inside vehicles by just tapping the button. Okay, so instead of holding it, you just tap it, which gives you a huge advantage over another player who, let's say there's a gun and you're both right there. You'll get it first if you just tap it, as opposed to him who has to hold it to get it, you know. So Warzone, contextual tap. Everything that's not Warzone, so just regular multiplayer, I would just choose tap to reload, because I've played a few games of Warzone and I went back to multiplayer and I forgot to switch this back to tap to reload, and there's guns everywhere in multiplayer, right? From dead bodies. You try and fucking reload, you press square, and instead of reloading, you pick up someone else's gun by accident and you die. So you don't want to do that. So Warzone, contextual, multiplayer, tap to reload. Depleted ammo weapon switch, enable that. Slide behavior, you want this to be on tap. I'll show you why. So when YouTubers started making videos about how to sprint infinitely, I thought it was like a glitch or something that was going to get patched, but apparently it wasn't. Like, it's an actual thing. So like, I just recently started practicing this. So what you do is you sprint, crouch, and then you press the crouch button again to cancel, And when you cancel the slide, it resets the sprint. So you're sprinting, slide, cancel. Like you wanna cancel the slide by pressing the crouch button before the full duration of the slide is over. Crouch, sprint. Like, I'm not the greatest at it, but this is essentially what you do. You have to crouch, sprint, and so on. And you can sprint literally forever. It's very good for big team. It's good for Warzone. Anyways. Auto move forward, disabled. Automatic sprint, disabled. You don't want to turn these on ever. All it does is take away your ability to fully control the character. So just keep them disabled. Vehicle camera recenter, disabled. Strongly suggest disabled, because if you're in a vehicle, you know what it looks like when you're in a vehicle. Like, you have this huge field of vision. You can look all around you, and the last thing you want is to be looking at an enemy team or an enemy and then having the fucking game just recenter the camera by itself. Like, you don't want to fight the game, you know. You want to be able to recenter by yourself if you want to. So that's my opinion. I would disable that. Parachute auto deploy, 100% disable that. So it's like a Warzone thing. If you disable it, you have to manually parachute. But that's good, because if you parachute and time it right before you hit the ground, you're able to get to items and guns or a vehicle faster than someone else. So disabling the auto deploy combined with contextual tap in Warzone, that gives you a huge advantage. So you're able to hit the ground faster and pick up weapons and items, or get inside a vehicle faster. Next, see, brightness, safe area. That's, you adjust the brightness on your own. Let's see, same with safe area. Film grain 0, it's pointless. Tooltips optional. Let's see, optional. Alright, blurs. So obviously, if your screen is blurry, you can't see shit. If you can't see shit, you're not gonna fucking kill anyone. Disable weapon motion blur, disable. Unless you're playing single player, you're playing the campaign, and you want to feel more immersed, then yeah, you can like enable it. But for online against other players, definitely disable. Minimap, I run square just because you have more vision, and that's really it. Like, it barely even takes up that much space in your field of vision. Like, there's no reason not to run square. You just see more in the minimap. It's especially very good in Warzone when you have a UAV. Minimap rotation optional, but I like enabled. I run letters. It's simpler to say west instead of 270, like it says in this example picture. See, all this optional. I'm not really going to get into the whole audio thing. That's personal preference. But what I will say is, if you're running a headset, most people run the boost high setting, so you can hear enemy footsteps a lot louder. But if you're not running a headset, then really just go for what sounds the best for you. I'll run home theater. Other than that, everything else is optional. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hope that helps. See ya.